Hi, everyone. How are you? This is Adam from My Body Tutor, and I'm with Haley. She's our head coach.
Hey guys.
And today we are going to be digging into the topic of emotional eating. It is something we all struggle with, we all want to overcome. So that is the objective of today's video, is to help you understand what it is and how to overcome it with all sorts of tips and tricks and strategies. So the first thing we'll talk about is what is actually emotional eating, right? And emotional eating is when you're using food to change how you feel, right? Whether you're frustrated, you're angry, you're disappointed, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're feeling unappreciated, whatever it is, you're using food to change how you feel. So that's the first thing I want you to keep in mind, is you're using food to change how you feel.
Right. Well, I think too, can we also include emotional eating, or include in emotional eating to celebrate, right? Like that's another thing that comes up a lot. A lot of people are like, but I emotionally eat when I'm happy or I'm excited or I'm on vacation. So that I think is a component as well, right? And it might not be to change how you feel, but to enhance how you feel. So we'll lump that in there as well.
Sure, absolutely. And so I think it's important to first also talk about the difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger, right? So physical hunger ideally is what we want to listen to. With physical hunger, we feel it in our stomach, we feel it in our head a little bit maybe, but it's definitely a physical sensation, and the idea of any food is appealing. Whereas when you're emotionally hungry, typically you're craving something specific. You can have snack after snack and nothing's hitting the spot. That's because you're not actually physically hungry, you're emotionally hungry, right? You're hungry for something else.
Right. Yeah. And physical hunger comes on slowly. That's another thing. Emotional hunger is very immediate. It like comes up, sneaks up on you. And physical hunger, we get lots of lead time on that. And it's also something that our bodies can tolerate, right? It's a natural, like you said, physical sensation. And it's not an emergency. Whereas when you're emotionally hungry, it feels like you need to address it right away.
Yeah, so I think a really powerful test is what we call the broccoli test, right? And the idea is that if you wouldn't eat broccoli, then you're not physically hungry, right? You're emotionally hungry. You can insert any vegetable though. The idea is if you wouldn't eat vegetables in the moment, then you're not hungry for food. You're hungry for something else. And the first step to overcoming emotional eating is first determining if you're actually physically hungry or emotionally hungry.
Right. And be careful of the loophole of, well, yeah, I'd eat broccoli, so I'll have these cookies. Not quite what we mean.
Right. The idea is if you would eat vegetables, you are physically hungry. So the natural question is, okay, well, I'm emotionally hungry. What do I do? Right. That's okay, fine. I know I'm emotionally hungry. I want to eat. I don't care. What do I do? So I would encourage you to ask yourself three questions. I love questions because questions can change your perspective, and that's the whole idea. Right. So the three questions I would encourage you to ask yourself are: number one, what's really bothering me? Right. Number two is, what can I do about it? And number three is, why don't I do anything about it? Right. So what's really bothering me? What can I do about it? And why don't I do anything about it? Because what we're doing when we're emotionally eating is, as cheesy as it might sound, as corny as it might sound, is we're choosing to be powerless in the moment, right? We're saying, you know what? I don't want to deal with whatever it is that's bothering me. I'm going to use food to help me escape this. And I don't want to deal with it. Of course, though, as we know, as soon as we're done eating, whatever it is that was bothering us is still there, right? Whereas ideally what we want to do is identify what's bothering us, take action on what's bothering us. Because when we choose to be powerful, not powerless, amazingly, the cravings actually go away. They subside, and the desire to emotionally eat drastically decrease, because you're getting to the root of what you're emotionally hungry for.
Right. And I think in order to access those questions and their answers, it's really important to understand that, what Adam's saying is we want you to ask these questions. You have to allow the space for the answers to come up. So they're going to be kind of hard to find when we're emotionally eating, because it just sort of turns the brain off and like you're in another place. So here again, we've got to embrace some discomfort in order to ask those questions and get the answers, because it can be a little tricky. A lot of times people say, well, I'm not sure what was bothering me. Try to extend the space after that impulse to emotionally eat so you can ask the question, ask the question, ask the question, and just kind of lean into the discomfort, and it will come up, what it is you really need, because food is not the answer.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, establishing that pause before you eat and just really giving yourself that space is really important. One thing that might that I think is very helpful is if you're unsure what's bothering you. I call it the magic easy button test. I'm sure we've all seen that Staples commercial where they have that red magic easy button, and then whatever issue they had is magically solved. So I like to ask myself, if I had a magic easy button, what would I use it for? Or what are the top two or three things I would use it for? And that quickly brings to surface what's really going on, what's really bothering you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the other piece that comes up is, okay, what can I do about it? Um, that's not fun to look at either. And then there's probably going to be resistance in doing something about it. So, to choose to face and address emotional eating is going to bring up a lot of uncomfortable feelings and thoughts. But it's it's your way through it. It's your way to changing that habit of using food to run from, the problem.
Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, action, it cures a lot, right? It cures a lot of stress, it cures a lot of anxiety we feel. If you're able to take action and you choose to be powerful, and again, I know it might sound, hokey or whatever, but if you choose to be powerful versus powerless, you're going to find that the desire to eat, the desire to use food goes down. Um, if I had to kind of give you a quick little one liner about emotional eating, it would be, we want to face our stuff, not stuff our face, right? And the more we can face our stuff, the more powerful we're being and the less we'll rely on food and want food.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, talking about all of this, emotional eating, look, it's if we do it, it's in our toolbox for dealing with things we don't like to face, right? So as an aside to all of this, give yourself some grace, right? This is going to take some time to learn how to do it differently. But Adam, you talk a lot about, what would you do if you saw one of your kids struggling with something they didn't want to deal with, or a kid, a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, something like that.
Yeah, I like to do that because it's like if my kids are upset, I'm not going to run and give them cookies or ice cream or whatever it is. Like I'm going to say, "What's bothering you? Like what's going on? Let's talk about it." And what do you really need? Perhaps it's some affection, perhaps it's some space, right? Perhaps it's a good book, whatever it might be. I know it's not the food they want, right? I know it's not food they need. That's not what's driving the emotions they're feeling. So I think imagining a child or imagining one of your kids or imagining yourself as a little child in that moment, again, that could be really powerful because you realize like you can give yourself distance or separate yourself from that moment and say, what do I really need?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that we need support in these times we're struggling. That's, I think, a key component to learning how to do it differently is asking others for support, whether it's a coach or a family member, and also communicating with those around you that you're working on these things, and that can be kind of sticky because everybody's kind of intertwined and people's habits overlap with other people around them. So communicating about what you're struggling with is really important.
Yeah, I also think the support, I mean, that's a really powerful and strong point. Like, I like to use the steep water slide analogy. I'm sure we've all seen those really steep water slides. You start up here and you go straight down. And they're super fun to go on, but as you're getting to the top, you have to climb like 4 or 5 flights of stairs, right? And once you're at the very top, it's very hard to get off it. I mean, really the only way off it is going down the slide. But as you're walking up, you know what's coming, right? And I think when it comes to emotional eating, we typically feel it coming on a little bit, right? We might be having a really challenging day. Our boss is driving us crazy, or, our kids are driving us crazy, or whatever it might be. We feel it coming on, right? We feel it. And it typically bottles up. It's like a dull toothache until eventually it becomes unbearable, right? So when you feel it coming on, that's a great time to reach out to, your coach, or reach out to someone and really try to, take care of it before it really boils over.
Yeah. And to your point about it kind of building up, and I think, if we want to back up even further, we can make a choice about whether or not we start up the stairs, right? Which maybe that seems a little obvious. I don't know, but there's two things. So our environment, right, is really a key component of our success. Um, and so designing our environment to make sure that we kind of don't have a choice but to face our stuff. So, if there's some food that is really connected to your habit of emotional eating, as hard as it may be, keep it out of the house, right? Just keep it out of the house. It's going to put you right in discomfort's path, but that's what we want. That's how you overcome it. The other thing is routine is also a key driver of habits and automation. So, like we were talking about before, if you come home every night at the same time, you come in the front door, you throw your keys on the table, you go straight to the kitchen, you're just setting yourself up. Boom, boom, you're taking the stairs up, right? So if instead you come through the door, put the keys down, go upstairs, change your clothes, or take a shower, or lie on the bed for 5 minutes. Um, I work with a client on dropping a pebble and letting that ripple effect touch everything. Just change one little piece of your pattern. It can actually displace a lot of the stair climbing you're talking about.
Totally. A new first action can change how the course of the night goes, right? And I was working with a client, and I suggested, what, when you get home, go upstairs, change clothes. Just give yourself that break, kind of separate yourself from work and home. And it changed everything for her, because she had a chance to regroup, drop that second pebble, as you said, and like it made a big difference. So a new first action, for me, a big challenge for me, used to be with my kids, right? As soon as we would put them to bed, the first thing I would do is plop on my couch, get on my phone, and just like scroll and just mindlessly. And like, I hated it. It was a waste of time and I didn't like it. So, now as soon as I do that, like, I'll read, and just changing that first action changes how my night goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's something new. And I think that's another thing to watch for. Where can we put something new in play, even if it seems unrelated or insignificant? I mean, something as different, Adam, as just sitting in a different chair in your living room could change everything. So watch for opportunities to just put something new in your path. It could be the hiccup that changes everything from there on.
Yeah, I mean, you're really taking the autopilot off, right? That's the whole idea, right? You're taking that autopilot off, you're breaking that pattern, and you're doing something else. So yeah, I mean, that's really, really powerful. And even if you're home all day, you can certainly do a new first action. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to leave your house to do that. You just try something different.
Right. Absolutely.
So, other just kind of quick thoughts to keep in mind. Again, cravings and the desire to eat are never about the food. It's about what the food allows us to avoid, and or the void it fills, right? So keep that in mind. It's never about the food. It's about what the food allows us to avoid, and or the void it fills. When you have an overwhelming desire to indulge, it typically means, something in our life feels overwhelming, right? So keep that in mind. If you feel this overwhelming desire to indulge, it typically means you have this overwhelming feeling and it needs action. And of course, food never makes us feel the way we want to feel. If anything, it makes us not feel, but that's only a very short-term thing. So just three little nuggets for you at the end that I want you to keep in mind, because they can really help. Um, Anything else to add, Haley?
I don't think this time. No.
All right. Well, I think hopefully this was helpful for you guys, and we will see you guys soon.
Take care.